Imagine the scene. It's maybe 4 o'clock on a Friday.
A dangerous time for a meeting.
Right. But the big quarterly review is finally over. The applause, what little there actually was of it, has faded.
Yeah, everyone's exhausted.
Exactly. The room is emptying out, and that adrenaline spike everyone was riding is just crashing down. Most people are already checking their phones, rushing to the elevator, arguing about where to get happy hour drinks. The event is done.
For 90% of the room, absolutely. The objective is met, the box is checked, the laptop is closed.
But there's this one person who stays behind. And maybe not physically standing in the room, but mentally they're still right there.
They're scanning.
Yes, they're scanning the emotional residue of what just happened. They notice who was unusually quiet during the Q&A. They saw that strained smile on the manager's face that literally everyone else missed because, they were staring at a slide deck.
They're the ones gathering the fragments when the noise stops. It's a hauntingly accurate image.
It really is. And it perfectly captures the subject of our deep dive today. We're exploring a highly specific personality profile, and this is coming straight from the Max Energy ME80 personality system.
We're looking at the FFSN.
Also known by a title that I think is going to resonate with a lot of you listening, perhaps uncomfortably so. The Emotional Keeper.
It's a heavy title, isn't it, Keeper? It implies this deep stewardship.
It does.
And before we get into the mechanics of it, because there's some really fascinating wiring to unpack today, I think it's crucial to frame where this fits. We aren't just talking about a generic personality quiz here. We're diving into the Max Energy ME80 system.
Which is distinct because it focuses on energy flow, right? It's not just a simple measure of are you outgoing or are you shy?
Exactly. The ME80 system maps how you process the world, how you make decisions, and crucially, where your energy naturally flows when you aren't forcing it.
Your identity tone.
Right, your identity tone. And for the FFSN, that energy flow is arguably the adhesive holding our entire social fabric together.
Let's start with that identity then. I was looking at the hero section of the report, and there's a core declaration right at the top that honestly stopped me in my tracks.
The ruins quote.
Yeah, it says, "In emotional ruins, gathering fragments and gently piecing people whole again through deep presence."
It's poetic, but it's also highly technical within the system. If you look at the phrase deep presence in the ME80 framework, this isn't just about being a good listener.
It's an active state.
Completely active. This isn't fixing things with a wrench. It's not the loud leader at the front of the room rallying the troops with a megaphone. The FFSN isn't the one shouting charge.
So if they aren't the general leading the assault, who are they? Like the medic?
Closer. Think of them as the stabilizer. The general type might be focused on the objective taking the hill. The emotional keeper is focused on the condition of the people taking the hill.
Their work maintains relational order.
Yes. It's subtle work. It often begins in the silence after the noise.
Okay, but let's push back on that for a second. Relational order sounds great, but in a high-stakes environment, does that actually get things done? Or is it just being nice? Because sometimes nice doesn't hit the quarterly target.
That's the most common misconception. We tend to view soft skills as passive, but the FFSN has a very specific control mechanism. And when I say control, I don't mean they're bossy or micromanaging a spreadsheet.
Yeah, usually control freak implies someone barking orders.
Right. But the source material describes their control mechanism as having a global view focused on preservation.
Preservation over assault.
Exactly. It's a defensive form of control. Think about a crisis. Some people control the situation by attacking the problem frontal impact. We call that assault. The FFSN controls the situation by absorbing and transmuting.
Absorbing and transmuting. It sounds almost like physics or sci-fi, like a shield generator or something.
It's very human physics, actually. Instead of fighting the wave of emotion in a room, they hold the water. They absorb the emotional fluctuations, the anger, the anxiety, the hesitation, and they stabilize the environment.
They don't escalate, they de-escalate.
Their instinct is always preservation.
So, if the room is a boat rocking in a storm, they aren't the ones shouting at the wind. They're the ballast deep in the hull, keeping the whole thing from tipping over.
That is the perfect analogy. They are the anchor. But being an anchor puts a tremendous amount of structural stress on the material.
I can imagine.
To understand how they survive that and how they actually operate, we need to look under the hood. The Max Energy ME80 system breaks this down into an energy matrix, 3 specific layers of wiring, plus a manifestation layer.
Okay, let's break this down, because the report uses some acronyms that you might recognize, but I think they mean something very different here. We've got IP, IQ, and EQ. But in this system, IP doesn't mean intellectual property, does it?
No, absolutely not. In the ME80 matrix, the IP stands for the inner value layer. Think of this as the energy driving impulse. It's the engine's default setting.
So what is the fuel for the SFSN engine? What actually gets them out of bed?
Connection. But not just, oh, I like hanging out. It is a deep-seated biological drive to ensure relational continuity. They're wired to value the bond above the specific transaction.
Okay, so if we're in a heated meeting, my impulse might be to get the agenda items crossed off. Their impulse is to make sure we're all still, cool with each other by the end of it.
Precisely. If the agenda gets finished but everyone hates each other, the FFSN views that as a massive failure.
And if the agenda is half finished but the team is cohesive?
That's a win for them. And that drive feeds directly into the second layer, the IQ.
And again, we're not talking about a standard intelligence quotient here.
No.
Not math tests and pattern recognition.
No. In ME80, IQ refers to the emotional activation layer. This is defined as intuition and rapid judgment.
Usually when we say rapid judgment, we think of logic, spotting a pattern in a spreadsheet.
Right. But for the emotional keeper, their rapid judgment serves a completely different master. It is tuned to emotional safety. They can walk into a room and instantly sense the temperature, not the Fahrenheit, but the feeling. They judge a situation based on the state of the people involved.
This is that radar concept.
Yes. Is there tension? Is someone feeling excluded? That radar is literally always on. It's a supercomputer crunching data that other types, especially the highly goal-oriented ones, completely ignore.
That perfectly explains why they notice the strained smile we mentioned in the intro. It's not magic, it's data processing.
Exactly. They are processing micro-expressions, tone shifts, and body language as aggressively as an accountant processes tax codes.
Okay, so they have the drive, the IP for connection, and the radar, the IQ, for safety. Now, how do they actually make choices? That's the EQ layer, right?
Correct. The EQ, or decision calculation layer. For the FFSN, this is defined as emotional holding and stabilization. When they have to make a choice between option A and option B, the calculation prioritizes stability.
Let's play that out for a second. Say they're faced with a risky business move that might yield high rewards but will definitely upset the staff versus a slower, safer move that keeps everyone calm.
They will choose the calm almost every single time. They are the decision makers of safety. They prioritize the woo over the win. They're actively calculating the emotional cost of every single decision.
And that leads to the final piece of the matrix, the manifestation layer. How does this energy actually look to the rest of the world? The report uses three very heavy words here: carrying, absorbing, integrating.
Notice the direction of those words. They are all inward.
Right, because some personalities project energy outward. They push, they speak, they direct.
But the FFSN takes things in. They manifest their energy by creating a container for everyone else's energy. They don't reflect the light, they absorb the heat.
Which is beautiful, but, it sounds exhausting. And I want to dig into that heavy aspect in a minute because I feel like there's a huge cost to being a human container. But before we get to the dark side, let's look closer at their inner traits. The report mentions long-term emotional presence.
This is a huge differentiator. For a lot of people, especially in the modern digital world, a social interaction is basically a transaction. It's a moment in time. We have a coffee, we chat, we leave, it's done.
Nice to see you, and then you forget about them for 6 months.
Exactly. But for the emotional keeper, relationships aren't temporary warmth. The report describes them as threads requiring long-term tending. They see a relationship as a living thing that needs constant watering.
It's the difference between a one-night stand and a 50-year marriage, but applied to just, regular friendships and colleagues.
In a way, yes. And this is supported by a really specific trait, the power of memory. The source mentions that they silently record key moments and details.
Oh, I know this person. They're the one who remembers that 3 months ago I mentioned I was worried about my cat, and they asked me about it today. Or they remember I hate cilantro when we're ordering lunch, even though I haven't mentioned it in over a year.
It can be startling, right?
It can be a little unnerving. You think, why do you remember that random thing I said?
But ask yourself why they do that. It's not just to be polite. It's not a parlor trick. To the FFSN, holding you in their thoughts, remembering those tiny details, is a profound form of power and care. It's their way of saying, you matter. You are safe here. I have a file on you. And it's a file of care.
That is really profound. It's like they're building a safety net out of small memories. But here's the part that really surprised me. The report says that when a relationship shows cracks, the FFSN doesn't back away.
No, they do the exact opposite. Think about your own instinct. If things get awkward or tense with someone, what do?
I pull back. I give them space. Or, honestly, I just protect myself.
Right. Most of us instinctively take a step back to avoid the debris. The emotional keeper moves closer, their instinct is to repair, they see the crack, and their immediate reaction is, I need to fill that, I need to fix that. They run into the emotional fire.
Which brings us to the danger zone. We have to talk about the shadow side, the blind spots. Because you can't be a sponge for everyone else's emotions without getting wet.
Getting wet is a very mild way to put it. You might drown. The report calls this the cost of caring. Because they're so sensitive to emotional safety, others' emotional waves easily become their own burdens.
I think we've all felt this at some point, empathy burnout. But for them, it sounds like a baseline state.
It is. If their partner is stressed, they are stressed. If their boss is angry, they feel the anger physically in their own gut. They lack that Teflon coating that some other types have. Their boundaries are permeable by design, which makes them great healers but terrible at self-protection.
It's like high-definition empathy. And the report connects this to something called the replay loop, which honestly sounds like a horror movie for the brain.
It really can be. Because they value the connection so highly, they are terrified of severing it. So a shift in someone's tone, a sudden silence on a call, a weird look, these things don't just pass. They spiral through the FFSN's mind repeatedly.
Why'd you say it like that? Did I offend him? Was that pause because they're mad at me?
Exactly. They are searching for the error they made so they can fix the bond. And this leads to deferred needs. Because they're so busy holding space for old relationships and managing everyone else's current state, their own needs are perpetually deferred.
Always at the back of their own line.
It's a tragic positioning. They're waiting for everyone else to be okay before they allow themselves to be okay. But since everyone else is never fully okay...
They never get their turn.
Correct.
This bleeds into their social life, too. The report describes them as the boundary-challenged friend.
It's the classic confessional archetype. In social settings, they are seen as warm, reliable, approachable. You just want to tell them your secrets.
I am definitely guilty of this. You find that one friend who just listens so well and you dump everything on them. You feel great afterwards.
You feel great, but how do they feel?
Probably pretty heavy.
There is a specific phrase the report highlights. It acts like kryptonite for an FFSN. If you say to them, only you understand me.
Oof. Yeah, that is a hook.
It's a trap. When an FFSN hears, only you understand me, they don't hear a compliment. They hear a moral imperative. They feel a duty to assume the burden. They literally cannot decline it because doing so would contradict their IP, their driving impulse for connection.
So they're basically trapped by their own nature.
And this creates invisible depletion. They look totally fine on the outside stable, smiling, nodding, but they're slowly being drained dry because they fear that drawing a line means losing the connection entirely.
They're running on empty batteries while charging everyone else's phones.
That is it exactly.
Okay, so we've painted a picture of someone who is incredibly valuable human glue, but potentially at high risk of severe burnout. Let's pivot to the workplace. Because you might think, well, corporate life is cutthroat. Is there actually room for an emotional keeper? Or are they just going to get eaten alive?
It's a really valid question. But the report argues they have a corporate superpower.
Go on.
The business world creates friction. That's just physics. Deadlines, conflicting egos, stress, budget cuts. Friction creates heat. Heat destroys engines. The FFSN provides relational continuity and emotional repair.
They're the oil in the machine.
They are the lubricant. Without them, the gears grind to a complete halt. Think about employee retention. Why do people really quit their jobs?
Well, people usually say they quit managers, not jobs.
Right. It's the feeling of not being valued or understood. The FFSN spots the employee who is about to quit before they actually quit.
Because they see the strained smile.
Oh.
We're back to the radar.
They see the strained smile, they see the slump in the shoulders during the Zoom call, they soothe hearts before the issue explodes, they reduce attrition just by being there. They are a massive cost-saving mechanism, even if you can't easily put feelings on a balance sheet.
The report actually lists some recommended career fields for this type. And looking at them, they make total sense now. Customer relations and community building are right at the top.
High adhesion retention. If you want customers to stick around, put an FFSN in charge of the community. They make people feel like they belong to a tribe, not just a mailing list.
Educational mentoring is another one.
Because learning requires psychological safety. You can't learn complex things if you're terrified of looking stupid. The
Mm.
FFSN creates that safe zone where questions are actually welcome.
And human resources.
Naturally. And this is a big distinction, not the hiring and firing, robotic, policy enforcing HR. We're talking about culture building, being the team lubricant. If you put an FFSN in a role where they have to fire people all day, you will destroy them.
Yeah, that would be absolute torture for them.
It would violate their core wiring.
And finally, consulting, specifically companion-style consulting.
Right. Not the I'm going to come in, slash your budget, and leave consultant, but the long-term advisor who walks with you through the change. Patience and empathy over speed.
So if you are an FFSN listening to this right now, or if you manage one, the key isn't to just toughen up and stop caring.
No, never stop caring. That is the superpower. If you kill the caring, you kill the value. But the conclusion of the report offers a really vital lesson. It's all about boundaries.
Let's talk about that final lesson.
Yeah.
Because setting boundaries is definitely easier said than done for this type.
The report concludes with a powerful reframing. The FFSN must learn that boundaries do not kill connections, they protect the caretaker.
Wow. Boundaries protect the caretaker.
Think of it this way. You can only keep others warm if you haven't burned yourself out to ash. When an emotional keeper establishes boundaries, their gentleness stops being a depletion mechanism. It becomes sustainable.
It changes the whole narrative from, I have to save everyone right now, to, I have to maintain myself so I can continue to be there for people in the long run.
Precisely. It turns a liability into a lifelong asset. It's the difference between a sprint that kills you and a marathon you actually win.
That brings us to our provocative thought for the day. We always like to leave you with something to chew on, something to take out of the deep dive and into your real life.
If you resonated with this description today, if you felt a little exposed by the strained smile or the replay loop, or even if you just recognized a friend or a colleague in it, ask yourself this. Where in your life are you holding space for someone else at the absolute expense of your own energy?
And the follow-up to that.
Is that space actually helping them, or is it just draining you? Are you holding the water for someone who really needs to learn how to swim?
That is a tough question, but such a necessary one. Listen, this deep dive was absolutely fascinating. I feel like I understand the quiet people in the meeting room a whole lot better now.
It definitely changes the way you look at a team.
If you want to see the full details, this report comes from the Max Energy ME80 Personality Assessment.
It's a brilliant system. You can learn a lot more at their official website, which is www.maxenergylife.com.
Or, if you're on social media, you can search Facebook for Max Energy, followed by the Chinese characters for Zhuning Liang Rengishu, so that's Max Energy Aishu. Or you can search for Metanergy, that's METANERGY Neng Liang Rengishu Lishu, which is Metanergy Aishu.
It's definitely worth checking out to understand the full matrix and see exactly where you fit in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for guiding us through this emotional landscape today.
It was my pleasure.
And to you, listening wherever you are, thanks for staying with us. Remember to check your own batteries once in a while. Keep diving deep.